Hello and welcome
Hello.
to the final 10-year anniversary podcast of 4Front. And it's not number 1, it's not number 2, it's not number 3, it's number 4 for 4Front.
And it is our final episode. Today, we thought we would talk about some of the shows that never were.
Yes.
Some of the tours that never were.
We will be talking about all the things we learnt along the way.
Some of the mistakes that I still make.
Yeah.
And some of the fun stories and things.
Yes.
Shall we start with shows that never were?
Yes, there's been a few of those. When it comes to discerning God's will, especially like on the level of like as a organization and a company and what to do and stuff, every now and again there'll be a really clear prompting. This is what we should do. This is where God wants to take things. But in the absence of those, I think there's moments of trusting in God and figuring out where he wants to go by taking the step. It's very much sometimes you need to take a step of faith that I think this is what God wants me doing. And if it's not, then I'll stop doing it.
Yeah, and he'll close the door. Yeah,
and there's been some shows and some projects that we have started developing as 4Front, and it's become abundantly clear that nope, that's not where we're going.
And sometimes it's like that's not where we're going right now.
Yeah,
it's like we've got a couple of shows on the burner for
there's one on the back
future.
burner.
Yeah,
I want to make it happen.
But there are some that was like, no, that's not right, and it will never be.
No.
So we had a couple of schools ones, didn't we?
Yep, early one. Do you remember the idea for Next Generation?
Hashtag Next Generation.
Hashtag Next Generation.
That was off the back of a kind of, well, it wouldn't have been TikTok then, would it? Because
no, it was like Facebook and Insta
Facebook
and stuff.
or Twitter or something. It was a trend, a drinking trend, wasn't it? And we were going to do a secondary school show.
Neck nomination.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was Neck nomination. It was like you have to nominate your friends to like drink something mad, and it was getting sillier and sillier, and then people were
died,
drinking like all sorts of cocktails and concoctions, and like some people died, and it was bad.
Yeah, and we thought we'd do a show about that, which would have toured secondary schools, and we started the development of that. Yeah, but it just wasn't right, so that didn't happen.
Ultimately, it didn't happen. We also looked at doing a primary school show, which was like an anti-bullying piece. Out of this world, like a space-themed one. No, that didn't happen.
That wasn't right either.
That wasn't right.
What else was there? Oh, there was Heroes.
Heroes.
Oh, yeah.
Which would have been a cute show about heroes of the faith.
That's still something based around that might still happen in the future, I think.
Maybe. And we've done loads of sketches about heroes of the faith in various different events and conferences and things.
But that show at that time wasn't right.
Yeah, it wasn't right. And so that didn't happen.
Yeah, but we got quite far on that in terms of the writing. Like I've still got script for that, scripts together and bits of it. Yeah, but that we might come back to that at some point. I do love looking at Heroes of the Faith, just not in that capacity or whatever.
The saddest one, and it's gonna happen one day.
This is one that will happen, I think.
Is The Other Judas?
Yeah, this was a timing issue. I think.
The Other Judas was pegged for 2020 Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah.
And obviously didn't come to fruition for obvious reasons. But it was a 12-man musical about the 12 disciples. And this one got as far as pretty much all the songs written.
Yeah.
Pretty much casted, and we started rehearsing.
We did, yeah.
And then, of course, lockdown. And that all put a stop to it.
We even did some lockdown rehearsals.
Well, we did lockdown rehearsals on the basis that we might come out of lockdown in time.
Yeah, how wrong we were.
In summer. Yeah, gosh, not at all.
That show, though, I still, I love the songs from that show, and I still think they'll come back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Maybe the music for this episode can be, at the beginning and end, could be a little bit
just
of The Other
bits
Judas.
From The Other Judas.
Yeah.
Disciple, get on your knees and pray. Disciple.
Because it was such a good show, and I'm really excited about that show. That feels like maybe another kind of reckless abandon show.
No, yeah,
it really needs 12 people. Obviously, it's about the disciples, so it'll be a God's timing thing, definitely with that show. And 2020 wasn't the right time, so we're just weighing up when the right time is for that. But it will be back.
I'd love for it to happen if possible.
I would love for that show. It's brilliant.
And Glad Rags.
Glad Rags, yes.
I forgot about that.
Oh, I think that's another show that probably might happen at some point as well.
Because again, that one, I'd got like a few of the songs all sorted and like a bit of scripting and stuff. And
I think the problem with that show at that time was that the show was beyond where we were at that time as 4Front. I think what that show requires is
it's like big scale musical, probably some dancers on it, and like tech and
that will be an amazing show. Give us a brief outline of that one.
So that was set in a leper colony.
Yeah.
At the time of Jesus, it's about a leper colony, and they're all outcast and whatever else. And and then one of them comes back and he's healed. It's like, that's not how things work.
Yeah.
We are here for life. It's a permanent thing. Yeah, and it is. Yeah, that would have been fun.
I think at that time that was really early on 4Front actually, and we weren't. I mean, as we said in an earlier episode, we were struggling to find 2 people. Like, I don't think.
No, Gladrox came about after Recce Bandy.
Yeah, but like we were still in the. Apart from Reckless Abandon casting, we did still find casting difficult.
Yeah, like Fisherman's was a struggle.
But it was before Fisherman's. It was in between Reckless Abandon and Fisherman's time, I think, wasn't it? So there's been a few shows, hasn't there? That some that are just the door is closed, that won't ever happen, and some that are like back burner, and some that are like we really want that to happen. It's just a timing thing, and a finance thing, and a God thing, and we'll figure it out.
Even in those projects, there's been so much like learning and good stuff to come out of exploring and developing stuff.
Definitely, and I feel like I've not been really sad about any of them not happening.
Yeah, it's almost like it hasn't happened. Yeah. That is a shame, and that's gutting, but clearly that's not right.
That's what God wants. Let's move on.
Yeah,
like literally.
Yeah.
And the only one is the other Judas. And I'm only sad about that because of the timing, but I'm still excited about when that will come out.
Yeah, I think I do think
that will come. So, shows that have come and gone. What mistakes have we made, Rob? Let's talk about. I know. Let's try and pick out a few little mistakes that we've made along the way. My ongoing mistake of ordering things.
Oh, well, that's just fun. There has been about 12 obvious things.
It's probably more than that.
Yeah, when Nat has ordered something, a prop usually, or costume or something, she's ordered it, and then it's arrived in the post and been ridiculously small.
Like really small. Really, really too
small.
Like,
we ordered, for Fisherman's Tale, we had like life rings that they wear on their heads to be the angels, like halos, and Nat ordered 2 life rings once, and they arrived, and they were like 10 centimeters.
I thought when I read that the hole in the middle was 10 centimeters.
That's
which would
still too small for a head. Do you not know how centimeters work?
Well, I've got a smaller head than you.
You haven't got 10 centimeters worth of head. You got more than that.
To just sit on the top. Like, it's not going over your head. Anyway.
It's not like one of those little, like, tiny crowns.
I think my two favourite things that I've ordered way too small is the seeds
and the litter pickers.
The litter pickers, yeah.
So we needed some litter pickers, and Nat ordered these, like, they were kitchen tongs.
Yeah.
You're the small kitchen tongs that are about 20 centimeters long.
They weren't even normal size kitchen tongs.
No, they were like mini ones.
It was small.
They were the smaller thing than you should have ordered. You bought the mini version of that. Again, Nat got a really good deal.
I don't think this one's a problem.
It's definitely a problem. She got a really good deal on LX tape, and it was like, oh, I've got all these things, and there's like 500 rolls of LX tape because we use it loads when we're touring for cables and wire and marking up stage and all sorts. And she's like, here's all this LX. And each of the rolls is 5 meters long.
Yeah. So what's the problem? We've got loads of 5 meter rolls as opposed to like 3 20-meter rolls.
Let me put it into context.
That's fine.
If you decide you need to mark up the stage space, we have a 4 meter by 4 meter stage space. Let's say you need to do that with LX, which occasionally we need to do every now and again. That means you get one run out the front of the stage and you're on a new roll.
Yeah. We've got 500 rolls. It's fine.
Yeah. So like we'd send out tours and the tool bag is 90% small LX tape. Mass set building has been so much trial and error.
Oh, yeah.
From the falling down set of Christmas to start with. That same Christmas is the one where I was like, oh, I'll get fancy with magnets and it'll stick together with these little neodymium magnets, which after show 1 came out.
Do you remember Rachel Benson holding the door up?
Oh, gosh,
in Chuck Blaze as well?
We had one show where it was a sliding door of Chuck Blaze. Oh, the infamous sliding door. And it came out of its hinges and it just fully broke for one of the shows. Yeah. Fortunately, we had 2 lasses who were like splitting the role and doing half and half. And Benson was with us, just happened to be there. I think it was like the crossover dates.
Yeah.
And so Benson played the role of the sliding door. And for the whole show, she just stood backstage and just lifted this door on and off.
It was great.
Yep.
Your set has been like an adventure, hasn't it?
They're getting better.
They're getting so much better.
Like the Chuck Blaze tomb was very fun.
Oh, it was great.
The Job and Jingle Castle.
Oh, the castle.
So if you didn't see it, the Job and Jingle Castle was like a life-size playset version.
It was
like,
amazing.
You know, like a castle playset that opens up. It was like one of them, but big enough to hide 3 people inside.
I feel like we've got to shout out Dan Woolley on that as well, because he did help you
hours
a lot
and hours
with that
just
castle.
shaving polystyrene foam.
At that point,
when you carve foam, the static
everywhere.
electricity means it sticks to you. Like Dan, I remember walking into the rehearsal room when Dan was working on it, and Dan was just like a snowman, just covered in a thin layer of small bits of polystyrene.
That castle did well, actually, because it did Job and Jingle Tour twice, and then it did
Virtual Holiday Club
dramas. Yeah, it did Virtual Holiday Club, and it did the dramas for Virtual Holiday Club as well.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
So yeah, it was really good actually.
The set for Gilly Rogers was we'll try and keep it not too big, but I wouldn't mind flats. I wouldn't mind something that does, because it's 4 meters, but if you have a wide space, great, then you can take it out and you can. So I built a set that effectively could span out to 8 meters, I think, but 4 meters at the smallest if needs be. But when I was building it, I was like, I want to put some wooden cladding on it, just like a thin layer of wooden cladding. That'd be fine, won't be too bad. No, but I use pallet wood. And full on pallet wood.
Heavy.
It's the heaviest set we've ever had.
So heavy, such a heavy set.
But the mad thing is, we had the first year of touring it, and it was a nightmare to tour because it was so heavy and so hard to put up. So for the next year when we did Herald of Herod, I was like, no, this time I'm going streamline, and I made a streamline set.
You did,
and it was really good and easy to put up.
Yeah.
But it meant that for the year when we had Gilly and Herald of Herod on the road at the same time, the Herald of Herod team would finish their setup in like 25 minutes, and they'd just be warming up and chilling out and having cups of tea. And at the same, on the other end of the country, Gilly was still slogging away, trying to put massive bits of wood together an hour into their setup, and they're still going, and then quickly running on stage to start the show.
Yeah.
So 4Front only functions because me and Nat are ridiculous and slog our guts out and do like all the things.
We do the work.
We just do the work. So I do the creative things mostly, but that means writing the script and the songs and making the set and ordering props and costume and then directing it and then being in the shows half the time. And then Nat does all the admin stuff, but that means organising the tours and talking to all the venues and sorting out the actors and the DBSs and the safeguarding and the risk assessments and just everything.
And just the charity stuff and the accounts and all of
finances.
That. Yeah.
So it's
until recently, and thankfully we've been able to take on Emily, but we'll tell that story in a minute.
Yeah. But yeah, we've both been slogging away doing like 4 people's jobs each. And one of the things which has been okay, that's something we need to not do and be careful of, is just being close to burning ourselves out.
Yeah.
We've come close a few times where we've just been doing too much and just been taking on too much and biting off more than we can chew. Fortunately, we've had many friends who are older and wiser and a bit longer in the tooth with these things who have been very hot on. Be intentional with your times of rest.
Yeah, Sabbath.
Be intentional. There's a reason that God made a Sabbath. Yeah. God has made us to work. God has made us to do good things, but he's also made us to make sure we're resting and recuperated. And
we've got much better at that, actually. Yeah. And partly, having kids changes your life as well, obviously, and makes you rest more and spend more time with family, and that's been really great.
Yeah, but it's the thing of learning to say no.
Yeah, and actually right now I think we're in a pretty good place, being more intentional about rest times and being more intentional about space for us to not think about 4Front. Yeah. I think I remember we went to Poland with your brother and his wife, and that was the first weekend that we had been away and not thought about 4Front in 5 years. From the beginning of 4Front to when we went for that weekend in Poland, we were just always on, I think.
Yeah.
And then that.
And we've been
on
holiday and things, but it's cool.
It's well, I've got the emails on my
here's
phone,
an hour to do some stuff. I'll just do a bit of script writing. I'll just do whatever else.
And we became really intentional about January is a real big downtime for us.
The kind of seasons of 4Front is that
of 4Front,
we do spring term stuff for loads of schools and things. Summer's usually mad with festivals. Autumn, we've tried to put something in there. I mean, prisons.
Yeah.
This year is very much an autumn thing. And then Christmas and the winter season is mad.
Yeah.
And January is the time where we stop. Yeah. And we intentionally
have some downtime. Yeah.
Be mad and and just take a bit of time to refresh, relax, and and renew ourselves. And it does. I mean, it's almost like that intentional time of not doing things makes you then get frustrated. And you get itchy feet, and you're like, let me get back to it.
But then you're so excited to get back to it. And then you've got the fire again.
And then you work at 100 miles an hour
again.
It is okay.
Totally. Actually, let's talk a bit about our prisons work, maybe, because we are about to go back into that. And we did that in 2019.
Yeah,
first,
so
didn't we?
A big thrust of 4Front has been stuff for kids, and actually children's ministry, children's work, and aiming that kind of audience and families and things, which we love. And that's one of the real big focuses of 4Front is faith in an accessible way, in a way that's reaching out and that's reaching kids. But on the flip side of it, ever since I worked with Riding Lights doing Roughshod, one of the kind of really rewarding and impacting stuff that we did with using theatre in various places was the work we did in prisons. So with 4Front, I was always keen to be like, oh, can we have a little foray into that and give that a go as well? And so even though it's completely the other end of the spectrum a little bit from pantos in primary schools, we created Beyond Bars, worked with a good friend of ours, Paul Birch, who
is now leading Riding Lights,
who is now artistic director
awesome.
of Riding Lights. Well, up, go Paul. Yeah, and so we came up with a show and we put it out on tour, and it just went amazingly. We had a great team, and it was about forgiveness and about grappling with forgiveness, dealing with forgiveness, accepting it for ourselves, and the difficulty in accepting forgiveness and knowing what that means.
So we do the show, which is an hour long, and then we follow it by a workshop as well. Tour it around men's prisons. We did it twice, 2 tours in 2019, April and October. And we were down to do it again in the latter half of 2020, had been the plan. But obviously COVID hit and everything. And then prisons is not a financially viable ministry, really.
As if the rest of 4Front is.
Well, yeah, I know, but like even less so. It's not, I love the saying, like, it's not financially viable, but it's kingdom viable. And I feel like that's is 4Front all over. It's like, it's not financially viable, but it's kingdom viable. Therefore, God will make it financially viable. I think that the show goes a long way to breaking down the initial bravado of the men when you get into the prison.
That's the mad thing about theatre in prisons, is that we've found that if you do any work in prisons, there's the front. You've got to break through the front. And everyone's got to put up a front. You just need it to survive kind of thing. It's like, it's the macho, it's the bravado. And even the nicest guys in prison, they're like, oh, yeah, but you got to put up the front a bit. Like, And if you just meet people just straight off the bat, you go into a chaplaincy, you're meeting men quite often with the front on, and it's very tricky to get through that. It's very tricky to talk to the actual person behind all of the guardedness and their kind of face. But once we've done an hour-long theatre show for them, which was, we're there for you guys, we've presented this whole thing, it's good, there's some music in it, there's rap, there's all sorts of stuff, and we've looked at this deep and vulnerable message
that is applicable to their life,
that is directly applicable to your situation. It's mad seeing it's like, you're a different person who wants to come and shake my hand after the show than the guy who came in at the front and kicked his chair into a position and didn't care.
It's a brilliant place to start the workshop in, because then we follow it with the workshop, looking at forgiveness and having conversations, and it's deep. It's really, really
some
deep.
of the conversations and prayers that we've had with people have been absolutely mad.
I think it's quite heavy for the team, isn't it?
It can be pretty emotionally taxing for a team.
This time, actually, we managed to get some funding to take in an extra person with us.
Just to help share the load a bit more.
To help share the load, lift morale, talk through everything that's happening, and
not
just
have to worry about the show.
Offer some pastoral support to our team as well.
Quick interruption from Rob, editing the podcast a few months after we recorded it. Long story short, we did Beyond Bars again. It was absolutely fantastic. The feedback was brilliant. The responses were great. We'll have to give some proper recap and overview at some point later. But anyway, it was awesome. We want to do it again some point in future. Well, hey, back to the podcast.
So let's talk about some stories from tour, some of the mad, fun stories of tour. Do we start with some of the blessing ones or some of the fun ones?
Let's start with the blessings.
Okay.
Shall I start with the van?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we'd been touring in a car, as we'd said up to this point, or hiring vans when we needed. But really, it was getting to the point where we needed our own van. But we just had nowhere near enough money to be able to buy one. That wasn't going to happen. And so we were doing Reckless Abandon, and we did this Reckless Abandon show up north. And I'll be honest, it didn't go very well. The show went well itself, but...
it was fine, but it was like a 200-seater venue, and we had maybe 40 people in the audience.
Yeah, the show was fine, and the people who were there really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
but it felt a bit like,
this hasn't hit where it could have done, and it's not achieved what it should have done.
We've not done as well as we could have. Yeah. We've lost £700 or something on it. And, actually, off the back of that show, which I'd kind of, judged as a bit of a failure, I guess, someone bought us a van. Yeah. Didn't they?
Yeah.
Somebody bought us a van off the back of that show, and didn't just buy us a van, but they also covered that deficit.
Yeah, they also covered the deficit of the show. Yeah,
which was absolutely amazing and a miracle for
And still to this day, effectively, the van that we're driving around in now, we had a mad experience with a van crash.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh, that was fun with some uninsured driver at midnight, smashed into the back of us, and it was some drink or drug thing.
Yeah, uninsured, drunk driver.
Anyway, it was this whole deal. But so long and short, the one that we're driving around now isn't the exact one that was bought, but it's a continuation of the same thing.
It is, yeah, because they wrote off the van, didn't they? Yeah. Which was very sad because we loved that van.
No.
But with the money that we got from writing off the van and with a little bit of fundraising to top it up, we did manage to get the van that we have today, which is fantastic. Yeah. And it is kind of hard to find one of these vans because they're crew cabs, aren't they?
So
they
we had to have it like
6 people.
Built
yes, but we still need the space in the back. Anyway, that was an amazing miracle. God literally provided for us a van 100%. Out of nowhere, didn't expect it, had been praying about it.
Regularly through the kind of miracle of provision, 4Front has been sustained.
Yeah.
Literally recently we had something where just a friend of ours was doing a Facebook Live and then was like, oh, and here's this ministry and they're great. You could support them. They've got a fundraising thing at the minute. And literally it was like 30 seconds of a Facebook Live mentioning that we've got a fundraiser going on for a ministry that is completely unrelated.
Yeah.
And we got $1,000. Like just of a gift through to support the ministry.
Yeah, and that was during our 20 grand fundraiser at the beginning of the year. Yeah. So I think I mentioned in a previous episode that we, felt like God was saying to us at the end of 2023, at the beginning of 2024, you need to have this space to not send a tour on the road, but to get all the things that you already have more accessible for people. So we made some dance videos for Virtual Sunday School. We brought out a new Virtual Sunday School album. We filmed a Bible Bash TV pilot, which is still ongoing. So we did a bunch of admin things, getting things in order, but we knew that without any income for like 4 or 5 months, we were going to be in a bit of a hole, which was a 20 grand hole. So it was a large amount of money. But praise the Lord, he provided it. He just provided us 20 grand, and it was through a mixture of grants and donations. And we just, honestly, God provides for us all the time. And we've seen it from, I remember one day when we had £20 left in the 4Front bank account. We had £20 left in the 4Front bank account. And here we are 10 years later asking God for 20 grand in deficit, but no, and he's provided people for us at the right times, like our teams who we've had throughout the years.
I mean, Lenchwood.
He's provided Lenchwood for us, like space. The YMCA before that.
The YMCA? Yeah. We spent a year at the YMCA, so we needed to move.
In Worcester.
We were moving offices. We didn't have
an office.
That was the first time we got an office,
yeah.
And so we needed an office space. Yeah. We had Becky and Dan with us as kind of like internee kind of things. So we had much more going on with 4Front. Was that? And that was 2019.
That was
2019. Of course it was.
Year.
So 4Front was operating at quite a much more substantial kind of level, and we needed somewhere to like base it out of. And our storage solutions were like coming out. I think we just moved house as well. So we'd lost like this massive garage where we stored everything, and we just needed somewhere to store loads of stuff. And also a bit of an office space.
And ideally a rehearsal space.
And in an ideal world, a bit of a rehearsal space. It just so happened that the YMCA had a building that they were going to be selling in, like at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And they had this like wing, which used to be an office that was now going to be sitting empty. And so
it was 4 big rooms in a private corner of the building with an outside door.
Yeah. And they mentioned, they were like, and the rent of it is like £1,000 and a bit a month or something, and that's it's
not including bills and
not including all your bills and whatever else. And we were like, well, we're very interested, but we can't afford that in the slightest. And it's like what we've been looking at and what we've been budgeting is £400 a month, including all bills. That's all we've got to play with.
Yeah, we don't want to offend anyone, but realistically, that's all we've got. So if we can't have it, that's fine. Yeah.
And they turned around and were like, okay, then fine. So for a year, we had office space, set storage, prop storage, rehearsal space, in like an enclosed bit of the building, which was entirely like us to use. And then the best thing about it is because it was tied in with the YMCA, if we were happy to pay £1, we could get a hot cooked meal from their canteen every evening.
Rob thinks that was the best bit.
It was the best bit. There was such good food, and it was £1, mate. And then we were at Worcester Baptist.
Yeah, again,
hosted
amazing.
us for a bit. Again,
and
fantastic.
they were such a blessing during COVID because they let us keep everything there without charging us.
They were, bless them.
And every single church who's opened their door to us for rehearsals, and every single
St. Peter's
host
have been really supportive.
who's opened their house to us for hosting. Yeah. God's just provided and continues to provide. And most recently, we managed to fundraise an entire year's salary so that we could take on Emily.
Yeah.
And that is just allowed us to really transform the way we work and should be sustainable after a year. We just needed that initial kind of input to make that happen. You know, again, God provided, and it's just really exciting. 4Front is such an adventure, but like, it's so exciting.
And all of this is to say, oh, look how much money we're getting. Isn't this great?
It's not to say that
at all. It's actually, look how much money 4Front it just requires and never has, but somehow we've always managed to get through, and God has met us exactly at the point of need every single time.
Yeah. And literally, it's money that is going in and straight back out onto ministry. It's not sitting in the bank account. It's not coming to us. It's going, and we're still only employed part-time. It is going to ministry. It is going to children, to prisoners, to families, to people all over the world with Virtual Sunday School who need to know about Jesus. So that's what we're passionate about. So I think we should finish off our 4 episodes.
Just some favourite stories.
Yeah, of our 10-year special podcast series.
Yeah. So we were at this venue where they'd left out like all the tech stuff. And by the time it got to clearing the lights at the back of stage, there was just a couple of uplighters. And I was like, sack it, they're fine. They're not in the way, just leave them there. And the show itself was filled with just silliness as we went along. There was a bit where Mark had to throw this rubber snake off stage.
Oh, yeah.
And he went to throw it up and over the stage and missed, and it hit the stage and bounced back in front of him. So he picked it up and threw it again, and it missed and bounced back in front of him. And he finally threw it up and over the top of the stage, but only just, and it caught on the sliding door and fell back on to the front of the stage, just bounced back out through the door. And so he threw it off again. The best moment is when we got to the very end of the show, and Matt, who was playing Melchior, this wise man, came on, and he had these slippers which were super slippy and a big long scarf, and they were finishing the show. Finale music has started, and we're just finishing it all off, and he's got to run on and present this thing of treasure. And as Matt comes on, he comes on stage with a big box of treasure, and his scarf, which dangles right the way down to the floor, got caught on the barn door of the uplighter that I hadn't moved. His scarf gets caught on that light, and it clotheslines him. And like both legs go flying out from underneath him. The treasure box in his hand goes flying up into the air as well, and he like upends and lands flat on his back.
I think there's an audible like...
Yeah, and the treasure, of course, goes everywhere. So that flies everywhere. One of Matt's shoes has flown off in the process as well, and now he's on the floor. And we found out afterwards, he was trying his best not to laugh. He was just corpsing. But his way of dealing with not absolutely wetting himself on stage was to lie completely still. I don't know why he thought that was a good idea. So we thought that Matt had like just knocked himself out or something. And the whole time the music's still playing. We've got to start singing and start doing the finishing number. There's treasure going everywhere. So me and Ran are on stage. I'm like, Trailblazers, oh, is Matt dead? No, he's all right. And Mark decides to try and redeem some of the situation. Just panics, picks up Matt's shoe and starts scooping treasure into the shoe. Trailblazers, oh. And then, of course, what we hadn't realised is as me and Ran started doing the dance moves and the singing, is that Matt also had the remote in his pocket and somehow, in the fall, had reset the playlist to play the opening number, which is very similar to the finale. So, of course, we didn't realise that it was playing a different song. And we get to the bit where it normally ends, adventure awaits, and the music just kept going. Moved into the whole verse. Like, so Mark's still scrabbling around on the floor, Matt's looking unconscious, and me and Mariana have stopped singing while the music's kept going. And we're like... Thank you very much. We've been stop the music. We've been 4Front Theatre. There was an absolute car crash of an ending.
But was it as good as my Christmas Castaways show?
That was a great start.
That was the start of the show. Yeah. So me and Jake are on at the start of the show, and we'd done a sound check, and everything was absolutely fine. And then we go on stage and Jake starts and that's fine. And then I come out and my mic's not working. And that was very frustrating. But I was like, Jake says, hello, everybody. And then I'm supposed to say, oh, I don't think they can hear you. We said, hello, everybody. And I went, oh, I don't think they can hear you. And Jake went, well, they can't hear you. And it just threw us both off. And we'd been doing the show for ages and we were fine messing around and like having fun. But for some reason, we just lost where we were in the song. Like completely lost where we were in the song. And again, it's quite a prop heavy song, and there was some steel drums, and I don't know how to play the steel drums, let's be honest, but I learned one tune.
There's just a one bit of tune that fits that one specific bit of music halfway through.
Right, but I forgot that it only fit into that one bit of music, so I was like, oh, don't know where we are in the song. Jake doesn't know where we are in the song.
What are we doing?
I'll just go play the steel drums.
Just hop on the steel drums.
I'll just go on the drums. That's fine. So I went to the drums, picked up the drumsticks and went ding. And then I was like,
entirely the wrong note, just out of tune. Bonk.
No, I can't fit this ding bit into
I can't play the drums.
That bit of the song. I can't play the drums, really. I only know that tune and it's not the right part of the song. So I'll just dance with the drumsticks.
Hop on the steel drums.
And that's fine.
Wrong note. Dance.
And then I'll put them down. And I'll pick up some of the props that I meant to use. So I picked up this fish, like this teddy fish from underneath the
It's supposed to reference a line in the song, which is like, and there's plenty of fish to eat. And pick up a fish.
And I just like show the fish and that's fine. But I was like, this is a fish. And I think Jake was like, what is going on? And then actually we found it was the chorus and we picked it up and we were good from there.
It has certainly been an adventure.
And continues to be.
4Front and continues to still be an adventure. And we have worked with some absolutely amazing people, fantastic individuals who, they're great performers and great actors and things, but they're just great friends and great people to know and to do life with, and wish them all the best.
There are so many more things that we could say or, could tell you about 4Front and the journey that it's been so far, but we don't want to keep talking forever. I feel like, if I have to sum up everything to a couple of things that I would want you to know is that God has made 4Front work and continues to make 4Front work.
There's lots of ingredients which make 4Front work. The various abilities and talents and time and things that I put into things, the various things that Nat puts into it, and the amazing way that we work as a team.
Yeah.
The brilliant support that we've had from friends and actors and creatives and techies and all sorts of things. And there's so much stuff that goes into it. But being honest, none of it should work. On paper, it doesn't often make sense, and entirely it is God who has seen us through all of it.
Yeah, and continues to do so.
Yeah.
And, our heart is putting faith at the forefront. Yeah. Our heart is telling people about Jesus and telling children about Jesus and encouraging people who already know about Jesus in their faith. And we hope that we can, do this for another 10 years and we'll be here doing a 20-year podcast. Thank you is due also to all the people who have been on this journey with us, whether for a week or a night hosting an actor or for 10 years, because there are some people who've been with us the whole time. There are some people who give to us regularly who have done since day one. Yeah. And there's more than one person who does that. It's not just Rob's mum, and my dad.
You have been mad supportive the whole time.
But it's not just our parents. It's people who believe in what we're doing, and we really, really appreciate the support that we've had prayerfully, financially, hosting shows, hosting actors, hosting us for rehearsals, St. Paul's hosting us right now to record this podcast. Just thank you, because this couldn't work without all of you. And if you are listening to this, it's because you are interested in 4Front, because this is the 4th episode right near the end. So, you've got to have made it right through to get to this point. Yeah. So thank you. And we really appreciate it.
And we'll keep doing what we do until God says stop. So that may be next week, it may be next year, maybe 10 years, who knows. But we'll continue on this adventure of 4Front, and we would love for you guys to continue supporting us and going on the adventure along with us as we put faith at the forefront through being silly on stage. But thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've learnt a few more things about 4Front and where it all came from and what we're doing and stuff. A bit of a sneak behind the scenes, and as is often the way with theatre, it looks really good out the front, and then you look behind stage, it's held together with gaffer and string. So,
but we're having fun.
But we're having a great time.
Enjoying ourselves.
God is faithful
God is
and good throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.